But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about school failures because, again, Campbell is a bloke who has run a state. The evidence is in, the science is clear, the experts agree. The numbers are getting worse every single year, be it year 3, year 5, year 7, year 9, about kids' ability to read, write, maths. Now, I am book dumb. I am no question about it, and you can giggle at me on Twitter or point at the ABC for that admission. I'm just honest about it, okay? But it is, to me, frightening, having a little girl who has just started school this week, that she has gone into a system that has more money in it than ever before, but she has more underperformance than ever before. What about my idea that it's time not to look to Australian experts to look at their navel, but let's turn to Asia? They get this right.
Well, look, Paul, the stats you talked about earlier on at the start of the show about the ACT proves the point. More money over the years hasn't given us better results, and the same pattern has occurred in the United States over a 40-50 year period. And the trouble is that the Education Union are always banging the drum about more resources rather than really being part of a conversation about teacher quality and standards in the classroom. And sadly, again, the media don't get it, the mainstream media, because for them the simplistic answer is always more money. It hasn't worked. And it does really wind me up too that we have such a problem because, you know, if we're not going to be in a carbon economy, if we're not going to be a resources country, going to be a clever country, then we better start being clever, eh? And we have to sort the schools out.
Do you agree, Nicholas, that the theory that was fought for by the Prime Minister that you worked for from when she was Education Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, all the way to when she was in charge, Gonski, all the way through Abbott, all the way through Turnbull and today about Gonski 2.0, that even with more money than ever before, the results are worse than ever before?
Look, I think obviously money is not the answer to, well, not the complete answer to improving our schooling system. So I agree with Cam on that. I think there's a complex series.
I'm not saying cut funding. I'm saying we've got the money bit sorted out. There's something else has to be in play here.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, and I agree with quite a number of the things you mentioned in your editorial, Paul. Some I don't agree with. I think the problem in this area is everybody sort of uses as an excuse to put their favourite theory out. You know, in a moment, Bronwyn will probably give us a load of old bollocks about bring back more discipline and get back to basics and all of that.
I'll speak for myself, thank you, Nicholas. You speak the bollocks around here.
I'm not going to verbal you. I'd never verbal you.
My goodness me, you make it your regular pastime.
Having talked about people and their pet theories, here's mine. So I was, you know, my daughter's just started high school, Miss 12, and
good on her.
I came home the other day, and between her and the wall were 4 screens. There was a television, there was an iPad, there was a phone, there was even a screen on her watch. You know, like, the kids are never bored in it these days. They have so much flashing entertainment coming out the whole time. They don't, they're being stimulated the whole time. And so where do they get the time to read? And, you know, the thing that jumped out at me about those ACT school figures today was the big drop in literacy rates. Like, a third of grade 5s in the ACT are below the national reading levels. Like, that's just unacceptable. And so my pet theory, because everyone else is going to have theirs, is it's the explosion of screens and devices in kids' lives, which means that they're just not spending the time they used to reading and doing other things to build their learning capabilities.
I think there's something completely fair about the idea that our instant gratification society and the concept that stimulation has sort of gone from being able to sit and, you know, read a book, watch a long movie, and now it's, you know, down to sort of tweet bites and everything. I think there's something in all of that, as well as what Campbell's been saying. But what about the response to this? Because this feels a little bit like when that aged care report comes out, front page, everyone, this is terrible. But then nothing fundamentally changes in how we respond to it.
Well, sorry, with regard to aged care, I did clean it up 40 years ago.
Correct.
But it was allowed to then slip again. And it's vigilance to keep up the standards. But with regard to schools, we have more and more kids. We've had this great pitch that we want smaller and smaller classes, which means we need more and more teachers. We've seen the score that teachers have only to obtain to get in to become a teacher are far too low. In other words, they're not equipped to teach kids how to comprehend. That's the one term I haven't heard here tonight, comprehension. It's all very well to read it. It's all very well to have some knowledge, but unless you understand it, then you can't use it.
But do you fear that the criteria for somebody getting a job into the future is going to be all of the diversity picks, not ability picks? Because it feels like,
No,
because at some point in time you can collect the rainbow, but if the rainbow can't read,
you've heard me
good
say
luck.
again and again, we have to learn to discriminate again. We cannot tolerate the intolerable. We have to again have standards. If you can't reach that standard, then you can't do that particular thing. Because we want to have the best for our society and the best for our individual children to go into. But once you have a collectivist model where everybody's got to be equal, and we want all the outcomes to be equal because that's the way it's fair, then that's the end of your society. So we have to, really back back.
Socialism's the fault.
Socialism is the fault.
Nicholas,
and that's why you've got Marxists in there drawing up curriculums.
Correct.
And the worst thing we
Socialism
ever
is the
did,
cause
let me
of
tell you,
those
was to put in a
NAPLAN
single
numbers going
national curriculum.
Why didn't I think of that?
When we had
I
8
can't believe I
jurisdictions, at
didn't.
least
when
somebody
Ross
might get
Ward
it
is
right.
allowed anywhere near an education
Absolutely.
system.
Causing those school kids to underperform.
Yeah,
Queer
with
theory
safe
in schools, when we start putting all of that sort of thing into mathematics, into English, to understanding what beautiful literature is, to understand the difference between honour and shame, all those sorts of things are important for people to learn, Nicholas.
Now, Nicholas,
and I'm sure your mother, who's an excellent woman, would have taught it to you.